Welcome to the Your Message Received podcast. And now, taking your message to the finish line, your host, John Duffin.
Well, wait a minute. Hey now, folks, John Duffin here, Duffin Media. Welcome back to another episode of Your Message Received. Your Message Received is the home, the place, the platform to help you find your best, most true, authentic business voice. Get what you want, find what you need, improve your results, meet the person of your dreams, make billions of dollars. We ain't guaranteeing those last two yet. We are still working on a couple of technical loopholes, but we'll get that figured out. But mostly we get to do all that because we bring on people who walk the walk in terms of authenticity. And folks, we have a friend back. I was going to say friend of the show, which is great and all true, but friend period. Superstar Chadd Levine comes back. Yay! Welcome back, buddy.
That intro still resonates with me, man. It like gets me emotional, you know?
Oh, well, you and me both, right? Both, as you probably already know, our man, superstar lender, superstar podcast host, superstar in general. As you know him from social media, as you know him from being out and about in various neighborhoods in the Philadelphia, Bucks County, and New Jersey areas. You may see him with a camera. You may see him with a colleague. But the thing is, you will see and hear him. And we also have had the privilege of getting to do some fun stuff together, whether it's your Motivational Monday or sharing the platform of each other's social media shows. It's just good. It just always feels good, man, when you're here.
Like,
buddy, you've done, like I said, one of the things that I was going to say from a personal sense, one of the things that you've done is travel somewhere to one of my favorite places in the world. And while this is not typically a travel show, I was a little bit jealous in regard.
It might be a travel show in your mind.
Well, at this moment, it is, because you had the privilege of, I'm going to say, summering or a portion of the summer in Italy. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about the experience a little bit, buddy, in terms of maybe a different perspective or what you got to see or what you got to do.
So it's funny. I didn't, you know what I like about you? I don't know where you're going to go. It's
no, those people.
I never thought we'd start this session with Italy. Boy, that's easy for me. I can take it from multiple perspectives. So for someone that's never been to Italy, I can say carte blanche. It is the best sensory experience you'll ever have. That's what I tell everyone. Visually, olfactory, taste. I mean, that is probably the best way to describe Italy. It never disappoints any of the senses. And, you know, as I go to different parts of Italy, last we did more of the South, Positano, Rivali, all the Naples, all those places. And then now we went more north, which was Milan, Lake Como. We did Tuscany, we did Florence. Everything it's just the perfect mix of culture, history, taste, and that's the best way to describe Europe. So rather than me dive specifically into Italy, I will recommend everyone. It is absolutely essential that you go there. Otherwise, you just haven't experienced the world. And the most amazing and alluring and lovable part about that part of the world is that in the United States, as we hop states, they hop countries. It's the same distance, and it's even shorter most of the time. And their ability to go between countries, because they share all these transit ways and railroads and things like that, is so easy to do. So highly recommend. Absolutely insane. Something I hope to pass on to my children.
I love that. When you got home, what was it like? Did your perspective change? Did your like because you see things? I remember when I was there. So I was in Italy, and my God, it was close to, we'll say, 24 years ago. And the one thing, and there was you described that so well in terms of a sensory experience.
Oh man, it's an explosion.
Yeah, yeah. And it was the first place I had ever been in my life where I had no reference point as what I was seeing. You know, like you go to Chicago, one of my favorite places in the world, right? So you go to Chicago, it's like New York, but it's more this and it's that. Oh, and LA is like this, but there's a beach. And I got there and I remember I'm like, I don't have any reference point for this. I don't have any reference point for the people, the food, the culture, the visuals, the sensory explosion. So when I got home, I remember thinking was, all right, I thought, for some weird reason, I thought I was pretty well traveled. I thought I was pretty well versed. I did, some work related trips or whatever. And it's like when you realize it's like, oh my God, just from a vantage point of just opening up your eyes and your mind and
yeah,
terms of,
yeah,
conveying, experiencing, sharing information. And Chadd, that was really the reason I was just thinking that was.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I listen, there's always a rhyme to your reason, I guess.
Right, it was just, to me, I'll never forget. And I've been to other parts of Europe now. It was like, but it's just that constant reminder that you think you see everything, you think you know everything, you think you know all that stuff, and then you go and you're like, oh my God, I know nothing.
You have to allow. I think my biggest thing is going on. It's one thing to go on vacation; it's another thing to be on vacation.
Right.
And what I mean by that is you have to allow yourself to experience it. There are plenty of trips I've taken where my phone is in my hand and my head is in outer space, and and kudos to my wife for that. Because she's really given me the ability to really do that stuff, and look at me and say, you know what, dude, like this ain't all about the work. And if you when you're older and you look back and that's all it was, forget it.
I love that I love that Amy was there. I love the fact that she was able to at least navigate that part of it, because I really do believe those sorts of experiences, if you're lucky enough to do two things, like you said, if you're lucky enough to be able to have the means to go, it just sounds like such a privileged situation. But if you're lucky enough to, and if you are smart enough to actually allow the change to set in, rather than being glued to a phone or what have you, because I've cheated myself out of experiences for that alone.
And you know what, John, I'm going to tell you the truth. This is the one thing that I've learned about travel in general, and this is what I'll tell people. I'm a people person, and I think you have to be when you're in the lines of work that we are in. And the most important part is to connect with someone from another part of the world. So if you ask me the most memorable part of my trip, I had a connection with our tour guide, who's a British sommelier that's been living in Florence for 10 years. And I did a lot of research before choosing him. And I was more intrigued by the way of life, how you do things out here. That actually enamors me a little bit more than anything else. And that's my biggest advice to people. When you go to these places, talk to people that live there, interact with locals, try not to always be a tourist. That's really experiencing other ways of life. And I'm going to probably remember most my interaction with this gentleman than anything else, than any 16th bowl of pasta or 55th sandwich I had, that's the truth.
That's gelato.
That's the truth. It's the truth though. It really is. And I think that's the overarching message that we're people, man. We're people. Yeah.
I think it's a beautiful message to experience and to take home. Folks, one of the things that we wanted to make certain, like for me, one of the privileges of getting and having our friend Chadd Levine here is that he is a content monster in regards to navigating. Chadd has helped me. We have collaborated together as we are doing again this moment. And it's one of the things that I think is really important. Chadd and I were talking before we hit the button, literally in words of the outward facing part. You may know, as again, whether you know Chadd as a money guy, great chance you may. Whether it is, as I said, mortgages and real estate and closing deals, that's really possible that's where you know him. And the content marketing that comes from that. Or you may know from the superstar mentality that you see on social media. Chadd, was going to ask you in terms of overall, because life ebbs, flows, business ebbs, flows, priorities ebbs, flows. Right now, what would you say are your priorities as it regards to content marketing? And I asked about Italy very intentionally, just in terms of opening up everybody's mind a little bit, right?
Yeah.
In terms of your own priorities, it's a lot to juggle. What are your priorities right now as regards to content marketing?
You know, I'm going to tell you the truth. I don't know if you'll find someone more obsessive than me when it comes to that, and the point where I'm so obsessive and I become such a perfectionist that it hinders my ability sometimes.
Okay.
You know, consistency and continuously producing is the key in this business. Social media is like, especially in real estate, John, it is by far one of the biggest, if not the biggest, drivers in all of business. Whenever you're in a business that you get referrals from, and that's the target of your business, you got to find ways to connect, right? And, you know, it's funny. I look back, and my brother and I had this conversation. I'm really glad you brought this.
Cool.
So my brother said to me, you know, I always would say to him, all these things I've done and I've quote unquote failed at, right? I've quote unquote failed at. I remember back when I was just getting into my professional career, and I keep being drawn towards this whole affinity of social media. And I feel like I'm an old fart saying that. It's like calling.
How long ago? Right? Perspective. How long ago is this?
2013, 2014. Right.
So
you know, it's interesting. That's a great, you know, I love it. I love that we're getting into this. So
good.
Let's talk about all this stuff.
Yeah, man.
Before, let me see, was that my first? So social media started with me in MySpace, right? Whatever the heck that was, God knows.
Yikes.
That's where I started. And even before MySpace was AOL Instant Messenger, right? So that's
God, with the groups.
Yeah, like so. I guess that's kind of social media, right?
Yeah, Then it was
MySpace. Then it was MySpace, and then it was definitely this. I can remember. So what I learned about myself is I get super into platforms. So like I'm really good at one and I suck at the other. Thank God they've integrated now where like
they're all the same.
Yeah, but they really aren't though. Like let's call a spade. You know what? Let's call a spade a spade. If you're someone that's not like our generations, I'm on the cusp of being out of it, right? The people that are growing up now, they literally can post at like 6 months old. They're like, boom, like it's just it's inherent in everything they're doing. They're so good at creating digital media now because it's such a part of who they are. And sometimes like we looking in, we're like the files are in the computer, like one of those things. And so I've learned that like I get obsessed with like specific platforms, right? So in 2013, I remember I got obsessed with one platform. Guess which one? Guess.
13. All right. So I'm just pulling it out of the sky. I'm going with Facebook.
Nope. It was Twitter.
Okay?
It was Twitter. And actually, I think that was the boom of Twitter.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Yeah.
And here's what I got obsessed with. I'm so big on time. Like I've always learned that I do what I do well, and then I like to hire and pay people to do other stuff. But when they stop doing their work, which we find so often, sorry to all the creatives out there, it motivates you to start to do your own work, right? So one day I'm like, screw this guy. I'm going to learn how to do Twitter, man. I'm going to figure this out. So I'm on Twitter. And I learned the value of curation. Okay. Curation. So let's talk about that for a minute. What do you think curation is?
Well, a very overused word that people treat it like curating art and using and confusing the word curate with create. And so they just basically.
But that's exact. You hit the nail on the head. So there's a distinction, right? Create is the stuff you make.
Yep.
Curate is the stuff you share.
There you go.
Right? That's the social definition.
Yeah, that's it.
Right? The perfect content is a balance of both.
Right.
Right? The reason is because no matter how much you want people to see your stuff, the more engaging it is with other people, the more those people will give you a thank you, will give you a share, will give you a like, right? You share theirs, they share yours, everyone's happy, we're all socially in a happy family, right? So what Twitter was really good at is making it easy to retweet, right? So I said to myself, all right, I want to become big in Philadelphia. I don't know what for, but I really like events. I really like to know what's going on. I like news, sports, all this stuff. So for me, it was like social. Wait, Philly social, right? I go online, I get the domain, phillysocial.com, and I start on Twitter, and I'm like, we are the premier place to find all social media information in Philadelphia.
Right.
All I did, John, was just follow the big places, go into their followers and like those people. And literally I'd spend hours a day retweet. Well, guess what? In 5 months, 30,000 followers organic, right? So what I said to myself is it's the Netflix theory. Now I got followers. I got to feed them with something, right? I can't just keep retweeting. So then I moved to original content, right? So I'm a guy on a budget with no money. I'm not making money doing this stuff. I said, all right, well, how am I going to do it? I went to the University of Arts in downtown Philadelphia. And I said, you know what? We're going to start an intern program.
So I forget this part of you. And you go in. Well, your timing was great with the University of Arts. Thank God it was then and not now.
Yeah.
But that's right. Because I think it's funny. You knew that it's how do you say this? That coming through the other side, monetizing becomes really, for a lot of people, maybe it's not everybody's end game, but a lot of people turn it into an end game.
Well,
and I think a lot of people get jammed. What do I do with all this engagement?
It's not even the end game part, really. It's if you want to keep doing it, you got to pay the bills. Like, you can't just do social media for free. I mean, we love it. Like,
I agree. I trust me. I get you.
You know, so I think that's what it was. I'll speed up. Long story short, we ended up getting a film crew of students that cost me nothing. We ended up shooting the biggest, the concert on the Parkway. We were press. We were press at the Wing Bowl. We did an in-studio interview with Fall Out Boy one-on-one in Philly Sound Studios. I mean, it was just ongoing, but I took from that. So what I took from that was how to create certain content, how to make it social, how to work in collaboration with other people to make the virality of it go. So you took from it. So my whole point in this message, John, is that I look back on it and I was like, God damn, that was a failure. And I always beat myself up for it, right? Funny. And my brother looked at me one day, he said, dude, it's not a failure.
Not at all.
He's like, you can take what you learned and now push it to the next thing.
Yeah.
Right? Which is what I'm doing and which is what I've done. And, you know, just like Philly Social, when I had to get into the mortgage space, which, by the way, John, ask me how much I was on Facebook before getting in the mortgage space.
I was good. Oh, about Chad, just a question that came to me. How often were you on Facebook before you entered the mortgage space? I think I got that exactly right?
I didn't even have a profile, bud.
I was putting up slap happy family and photos at the beach, which I had no right taking photos of me. But no one needed to see that, and it was proven. But all right, so nothing's going on, and curate, create. And so it's I'm working with my University of the Arts crowd. God rest their soul, love them. And now I'm in the mortgage space and I got nothing. So what'd you do? What the hell did you do?
So I said to myself, like everyone else, I got to figure this out. And it can't be that difficult because everyone's doing Facebook, right? So I basically said, all right, what I'm going to do now is start by, finding anyone that's like, you start with the realtors because they're the ones that give you business. So you become friends with them and you say, all right, well, I just can't become friends with them. I got to start engaging. So you start liking their posts and sharing their posts, and then they reciprocate. And then I've understood now you can start a relationship online, but then convert it on land. And that to me became the biggest thing, because real estate is its own network.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
It's a virtual network and it's an on land network. And the two converge when you go to an event. And it's so weird. I've literally been to events where I've scanned the room and I've never met one of them in person, but we've interacted so much online. It's just natural. It's like a warm handshake. It's like, hey, how are you?
An easier hug, an easier sense of like you said, a truer sense of engagement rather than a million nice to meet yous.
And really that's kind of been my point, my focus going forward, which is how do I collaborate online to then develop relationships on land and use both, metaspheres, use both, both worlds.
Interesting choice of worlds.
And so I'm constantly finding ways to collaborate with the people in my space, whether it's through neighborhood spotlights where Mark Gatta from Opus Elite and I work with his agents, and we try. The goal was to go and interview businesses in the areas we serve to get them exposure, but to us for us to meet people, etc. Superstars podcast, which is having a rebirth. I hit a writer's block. I stopped for a while, but I'm reinvigorated. I'm re-enthused. I'm remotivated. I'm everything. And the purpose of that show was always to do this with people that serve people at a high level. I obviously want to do it in real estate. I want to expand outside of real estate. I do have an itch to get into coaching and business leadership, just like yourself.
You and I have covered that, and I love that you say that. Because I think you should. I'm going to take one step back, though, before you continue. And I love the fact, hey, I'm reinvigorated. What changed to reinvigorate? What, in your mind, is different?
I love this question, John. Here's why I love the question. I get so when I go throughout a week and I'm not doing posts consistently, and I'm not like I almost feel it's like I don't even know what to say. It's like you lack that energy, right? And when your social media is flowing and you're consistently putting out content, it's you consistently putting out your message. That's
interesting. Let me write that down. Your message.
Okay. So it's just I think it's just a point of frustration to the and I overthought. And I asked everyone, and I asked you, God knows how many texts and how many. Do you like this name? Do you like that name? And everyone said, dude, just cut it out, man. Just get back on the damn camera, And that's what I'm doing, man.
It's needed, but what you're reminding me, and I'm hoping that, from an outward facing perspective, one of the things that's really important is it's the energy, because I've done it. It's the energy that you expend in wrong directions as opposed to a simple
true.
And it's like the energy that I need to beat myself up, the energy that is required to be like, I hate my social media posts this week. It's rather a rehash, or they all look the same, or they all sound the same, is a ton of energy. And one of the things that I don't notice the sense of, like you're talking about, you said I hit a writer's block. I'm like, I don't notice that. The only thing that I'm seeing from that regard, which is why it's a reminder to everyone else, I hate cliches like just go do it, but honest to God, it is sometimes that simple, because the editing of your posts is so easy. The shifting of them is so easy.
I know.
I don't like the border on. Well, then who cares? It's like, just go create stuff. And that's the part. You and I have done that. One of the things where you have really helped me is just that sense of legit encouragement, because it's so much easier when you are in the rhythm to shift, pivot, move, revise. You know what? I don't need to do this sort of social content. You know how I'll say it differently next time. And that's where it's like, for voices anyone watching, put this better, everyone watching who is either thinking, starting, because everyone's thinking of doing social media, and most people have attempted it. My recommendation is you really can shift and edit on the fly, and that's why I love the fact that there's a resurgence. You guys are also, I love the fact, navigating different neighborhoods, which is fun for me. Whether it's your home turf in New Jersey or whether it is Fishtown, or what, it's just fun for me to watch the freshness of it. Question for you is this. As you're shifting, as you've seen things differently, invigorated and blah, 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 what is it that you'd like to, let's say, for instance, the Superstar podcast, right? What is it that you'd like to be able to accomplish with the platform?
So that's a phenomenal question, right? Because the biggest struggle you have is creating content with no end game. And that's always been my issue, to be honest with you. And that's why I was going to pivot pretty hard to a real estate specific thing. And I'm still going to end up doing it because I'm that type of person where I just can't get it out of my blood. But I'm going to have to put it on pause until I get this going. But I think the answer is to interact with as many people that I can, whether it's going to be direct and referral business, people in my real estate specific space, people that eventually I might interact with them from a coaching level, or people that can help me push out my own brand. So to me, it's those three core areas. And I've realized that there is no disadvantage from a standpoint of, if I'm making positive content that shows me being excited and energized, I've never seen it not be effective. And you and I talked about this before pressing start, which is making the content authentic and fun and real, as opposed to just strictly business oriented.
Oh God, yeah.
And I think that's been my strongest, attribute by far. I don't do basic, boring podcasts. If you ever listen to them, they're pretty deep, heavy interviews that are extremely personal. And most of the time, people find answering questions and saying things they didn't anticipate. And I think that's what I love about it the most.
As someone who digs deeply in regards to podcast interviewing, as you do, what would you say for yourself is an area of, like, for you, frustration that you want to move past in regards to current? You had three purposes. What's been the block, and how do you see the path forward in regards to making certain that you're actually going to do that rather than just intend to do it?
It's a great question. And the answer is to remove as many limitations as I can. And I think the best example is, why am I shooting this? Who am I shooting it with? What's it going to lead to? Like, blah, blah, who cares? Like, just go turn the damn camera on, feed people that want to be fed, and consistently do it. And look, if you do it, you can do it in an intelligent way. If I need to bump up my real estate business, I'm going to bring more realtors on. If I want to bump up my coaching business, I'm going to bring on more of those people on, and being versatile enough to be able to do that, and understanding that, I think being crystal clear, if someone doesn't know that I am the superstar, and that means someone who is high energy, highly motivating, in the process of and whether it's doing it in real estate or doing it in coaching or in real life, that is what I want to personify. And at this point, I think I got to just remove the limit and go, man.
I am rooting for that to happen, because I really do believe, like, one of the things that I've admired is you don't settle for surface answers when you ask people questions. You demonstrate that you don't accept that. Hey, I want to go a little deeper. No, I want you to be more specific. So what do you think
It's true.
would be one area that you're going to be able to utilize to get past that block?
For myself, you mean? I think that the best thing to do is to listen to yourself and understand what it is you're trying to accomplish. And I think you're in the same boat in a certain respect, because what I mean is like, all right, Chad, you just did this awesome interview. Now what? Okay.
Right.
Well, it depends on who I'm interviewing and what the purpose of it was. I have intention behind it. If I'm bringing on people that are high level in my business, I want other people that are fans of that to see me with them. And if I'm with them, it's going to help my credibility, right? In the space. That's number one. Number two, I've got to start telling people that I want to get into coaching. I mean, it's something that I've been holding back on, and I'm like, you know what? F it, man. Like, I want to do it. It's saturated like everything else in this world, right? Some people think coaching is hokey pokey, and here's my response to that. Your ability to receive coaching is going to be in your ability to alter your own perception. If you're in a slump, no matter where you are, and you need an accountability partner, or you need that little kick in the arse, as John,
right? There you go.
Right. You need somebody like us who wakes up and focuses in on that. And I think that's our superpower, John. I think it's our superpower. I think bringing energy, positivity, and drive is absolutely what I do in everything I do.
I'll add one more, because sometimes it's easier to see, because the answer is, of course, I think you should. And I've already articulated that. So here's one more round of it. But here's what I'd also say. You said energy, positivity, and I blanked on the third word, and I apologize.
I don't, you know what? I probably press replay.
I'll add one. I can't believe of course I go back and watch the recording, but I'm going to say,
well, I think it's drive. I think it's drive.
It is drive, but I'm going to add one more.
Yeah.
Because it's situational. God, this sounds deep, and I don't mean it to be. Situational specificity, meaning, the reason I just explained this, when I knew, because I didn't know that I would be an okay coach. I mean, I've actually had managerial background, so it's not like I don't know what it is. But it's the sense that currently in 2024, if you happen to be folks watching or listening to this in the year 2024, well, here's what I'll say. And people give me a situation. This sounds vain, but it's true. Very often there's a sense, like when you're taking a test and you realize you know the answer, and you're like, that sense of confidence that runs through me, that you're asking me something, and when I answer, I don't believe in my heart I'm steering you wrong. I really believe in my heart I get this. I've either seen this, observed it, lived it, and benefited from it. I say that out loud not to impress you about me. I'm saying that's when I realized, wait a minute, I can actually handle situational stuff too, in addition to this is great, and the energy and the drive and, all that stuff. Like, I believe it's that. I believe you have that, is all that was about.
John, let's call a spade, right?
How so?
No matter where you are in life, whether you're ascending the corporate ladder, whether you're
descending
the corporate ladder. I have had experience in having to change careers because I actually, let's be real for 1 second. The career that I started in, it's not in a good position. It's consistently going in the wrong direction.
Right.
You have to get a high level degree. It's underappreciated. It's underfunded. It's under. Can you imagine going to school for that long, getting yourself set up, looking at the writing on the wall and saying, oh my God, like this is not the right path. This is not the right path. And I have a mortgage, and I have a wife, and I have kids. Holy bleep, dude.
Yep.
Holy bleep. So you now have to have enough fortitude and enough energy and motivation to keep the bills going, but then start to pivot to find ways to get into other things. And then when you get into the other thing, that has to become profitable. And then you have to balance two until one can outweigh the other. It's crazy. It's stress. It's anxiety. It's all the above. But most of all, it takes drive, and it takes focus, and it takes discipline. And I've done that. So guess what? I don't need a stupid certificate. or an MBA or any of that other crap to tell you, I'll give you the kick in the ass, bro. I'll give you the kick in the ass.
Right.
And and it's funny, like me and you have the same path in terms of we've got the rap sheet, man. Like we've done
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely. That's why it's important. I think, folks, in terms of whether like our intention, Chadd's and I today, was to talk about content marketing. The reason I love the idea always of a pivot conversation, and I mean it, is because I think it is unrealistic based on the people that I know, the life that I've lived, the people that I admire. It's not just, descending. I admire most of these people because they've mostly all, at least in my circle, dusted off, got back, rallied, succeeded in the pivot process. Because if you're hanging around long enough, you're going to pivot. If you are, I don't know a soul, including wildly successful people, that have not had to pivot and shift. And whether we're talking about your content marketing, or whether we're talking about the fact of getting knocked on your rear end and getting up, or the kick in the arse, but whatever it is, that I believe it resonates not just with motivation. And that's where I believe the people that you follow, that you listen to, that you pay attention to, have specific solutions that, whether it directly impacts your question, concern, or need for change, or whether it's like, okay, I can relate to that, so I'm going to put this into my business. And Chadd, the way that you talked about changing the models of social media, the only thing I would course correct in what you said, and you were talking about talking to your brother earlier in the conversation, and failing, and people use that choice of words, and that's fine. But it isn't. It isn't. Because Christ, it's like you can get a degree and prove that you are knowledgeable and worthy in a field, so to speak. But ultimately, that's not the test of whether that was the right decision. Chadd, you already articulated what is the real test. So people miss a lot. And my thought is, rather than just give up and settle, you can't. So that's why it really mattered to me today to have the conversation with you in regards to facing stuff forward, because that you're saying I'm fired up, I'm ready, and blah, blah. It matters. For the moment, last question, which is simply this, which is in terms of what do you do with this newfound vision? You already articulated the directions you want to head. What do you see yourself actually doing with this now?
Awesome. That's the best question of all. And the answer is producing more shows, getting as many people as I can on them from all walks of life, especially in the real estate space, because that's what I'm good at, right? Making sure as many people know that I'm a lender and that I'm good at it and that I love it, right? But now also introducing them to the concept of having me consult on other parts of their life. And I'm going to work on creating everything around my superstar mentality, which is superstar coaching, which I did get the .com. Thank you, John.
There you go.
We're going to create the superstar playbook, which is going to be an online course. Again, manifestations. I'm putting this out in the world. Getting out and doing speaking. I want to get as many groups of people as I can to engage in public speaking. I think it's a super strong thing that I do. It's something that I love doing. So I think doing online and on land as many interactions with people as I can to be motivational, to be inspirational, to give them drive, to give them mindset, to give them positivity will translate to growing in the mortgage space, and will translate to growing in the coaching space.
See, that to me is like these pivotal links and shifts. You just said it, but I want to make sure it was heard correctly. Where is the best way to find you now?
I love it, John. Thank you. Look at you just going right at it. So I'm going to push everyone in one place. I didn't used to be this specific, right? Pay attention to Superstars, that's plural, Superstars podcast on YouTube. That's it. That's it. I'm going to make it very crystal clear and simple. I mean, if you want to follow me on Facebook, the bulk of all of the things that I do come on there. You'll see a little Superstar Lender avatar, but Chadd Levine is with 2 Ds.
Oh, some really hot dude that's there. Always got shades.
But I got 97 videos up there right now, just from previous stuff I've done. And now it's going hyperspeed, man. Like I'm gonna aim to get the Cubans of the world, the $1 million listings guys, but most importantly, it's gonna be the rock stars in the local South Jersey and Philadelphia places. These people have such personalities, man.
That builds up your infrastructure now.
Yeah,
so you have that's what I mean. When you solidify that network of talent, then the ascent makes it so much easier. And by the way, you're like, I'm getting the Cubans. I'm like, I didn't know we were doing ethnicity. I'm like, great. Never mind.
Listen, my goal in the next year or two is to do an A-list, and maybe not a Cuban, like maybe like a Ryan Serhan or Fred, whatever his name is, Eklund,
Lundy, or I never knew
Fred Eklund or Josh Altman or Josh. Yeah. But I mean, these guys have become such celebrities in real estate. I think I could do it, and I think if I do one well, I'm going to try and get them all. Watch.
See that? There you go. So that's the important part, because that's what in terms of outward facing, it's what are we? Chadd and I are really strong with the sense of knowing how important accountability is and should be. And so, folks, the life lesson, if you're taking one, is this reminder. It's what are you doing with the social content? And it's really important that there is some sort of an end game. And to me, the real talent, Chadd Levine, you're one of them, is to make certain that there is an end game that doesn't feel like some salesy, closey, buy my book, buy my course, but there's a purpose involved. And the purpose is more than just inform and entertain, that there's an actual purpose. And that to me is when you're really hitting the mark in regards to content marketing. Chadd Levine, God, this was overdue. Will you come back again?
Oh, please. It's like therapy for me.
Beautiful. And for me, by the way, folks, as you can see, I light up around the right people. I'm always grateful when people talk about my own energy, but I'm telling you, the collaborative nature, it's certain people that do that. Chadd Levine is, I'm going to say, right toward the top of the list. Love you, Chadd Levine. Thanks so much for showing up for us.
Thank you for having me, buddy.
Anytime and every time. Folks, you just caught another episode of Your Message Received. We are thrilled to have you. Keep watching, keep listening, keep liking, keep sharing, and we'll keep driving content through your front door. John Duffin here, Duffin Media. Have a great day, and we'll talk soon. Bye.
And now, making its way across the finish line, Your Message Received has been a production of Duffin Media.